In his recent article entitled Tyranny of Numbers, Mutahi Ngunyi claims that the Jubilee coalition, headed by Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, can be sure of victory in the upcoming Kenyan general election. Despite opinion poll results which consistently show that Jubilee and Raila Odinga's chord are tied in popularity, Ngunyi asserts that the Jubilee coalition will win outright in the first round. His analysis is based on the following flawed premises. First, Kenyan voters cast their ballot purely along ethnic lines. Second, most areas in Kenya are occupied by only one ethnic group. Third, candidates who already hold office do not have any advantage at all. And fourth, voter turnout is always 100%. In this presentation, we will illustrate why Ngunyi's argument is fallacious and misleading. Let's start with the first flawed assumption. Kenyan voters cast their ballots based on nothing other than ethnicity. While it is true that Kenya is ethnically divided and that many politicians can usually count on support from their own ethnic groups, it is impossible for any presidential candidate to win an election based only on the vote of his or her own community. This is because no one community has a majority in the Kenyan population. As this table shows, any successful presidential candidate would need to draw support from multiple communities in order to win more than 50% of the total vote. Ngunyi begins by claiming that Jubilee and Chord have different numbers of what he calls bankable votes, meaning the number of votes they can count on receiving from members of their own and friendly ethnic communities. He claims that Jubilee can count on all votes from the Kikuyu, Meru, Embu and Kalenjin voters, which he calculates to total 6.2 million votes, or 43.2% of the total number of registered voters. Chord, on the other hand, can only count on votes from the Luo and Kamba groups, giving Raila 2.7 million bankable votes, or 19.2% of the total vote. A look at Kenya's electoral history, however, shows that there is no reason to assume that votes are bankable in this way. Yes, it is true that Kikuyu voters generally do vote for Kikuyu candidates. The same is not true, however, for other communities. Ngunyi also completely ignores scientifically conducted opinion polls, which have consistently shown that the competition is too close to call. If it is true that Raila can only count on 19% of the vote and has no hope of catching up to Uhuru's popularity, then how is it that the polls show that Uhuru and Raila are almost equally popular? Ngunyi conveniently ignores evidence that casts doubt on his claims. Let's go back to Ngunyi's bankable votes theory. While Ngunyi is right that Kikuyu candidates generally do quite well in Kikuyu strongholds, they do not fare as well in other areas. In this illustration, we can see that the two Kikuyu candidates in the 1992 election received the lion's share of their total vote, 80.1% and 61.8%, from what are considered to be Gema stronghold areas. Clearly, they did not do so well in the rest of the country. And how have other groups voted? In 1992 and in 1997, the Luya community's voting patterns debunk Ngunyi's claims. In 1992, the Luyas split their vote between two candidates, proving that all groups do not always vote as a bloc. In 1997, even when the Luyas had their co-ethnic Michael Wamalwa running in the election, they split their vote. A look at the voting patterns of Nyanza province in 1997 also shows vote splitting among groups. As might have been expected, Luo candidate Raila Odinga did well in Nyanza, capturing 56.8% of the vote. In addition, Moi won more than 1/5 of the province's vote, despite the fact that he is neither Luo nor Kisi, the two groups that constituted the majority of Nyanza at that time. The 2002 election most clearly falsifies Ngunyi's argument. In that election, Luos in Nyanza province all but ignored Luo candidate James Orengo in favor of Kikuyu candidate Mwai Kibaki. In 2002, the Luo community in Western province overwhelmingly backed Kibaki, but a significant minority, more than 20%, voted for Kenyatta. Secondly, Ngunyi bases his entire argument on numbers that cannot be checked. We have no information on the ethnic identity of registered voters because the IEBC did not record ethnic identity. We also do not know exactly how many members of various groups live in Kenya's counties. This is partly because the 2007-2008 post-election violence caused hundreds of thousands of Kenyans to leave their homes and move to other areas. Such moves and the continuing presence of IDPs around the country makes it difficult to know what groups are concentrated in particular areas. It is also important to remember that there are 3.5 million new voters in this election, and we have no way of knowing how they will vote. Those unknown votes could easily make or break a victory for either candidate. Thirdly, Ngunyi does not consider that candidates who already hold office have scientifically proven advantages in elections. These candidates are often very difficult to defeat because they are familiar to the public. People believe they have important experience and know-how. In 1992 and 1997, President Moi, who was already in office, easily won by around 10 percentage points. It is important to remember that Raila is currently the Prime Minister and therefore is running with a built-in advantage. Fourthly, Ngunyi's analysis is based on the false assumption that all registered voters can be counted on to turn out to vote. Even a cursory glance at Kenya's voter turnout history shows otherwise. Voter turnout has never been close to 100%. On average, in fact, national voter turnout has only been about 64%. We can now construct 3 different scenarios. In scenario 1, we assume that the polls are accurate. In this case, using our expected number of voters and recent poll results, we can estimate that Uhuru will win 3,949,435 votes and Raila will win 4,368,789 votes. Neither of these reaches the 50% plus 1 figure of 4,591,730 votes. In scenario 2, we assume that the polls are projecting both Uhuru and Raila to be more popular than they really are by 6 percentage points. In this case, again, neither Uhuru nor Raila meets the 50% plus 1 requirement for a first-round victory. It is only in scenario 3 where we assume that the polls have projected Raila and Uhuru to be less popular than they really are by 6 percentage points that Raila meets the 50% plus 1 threshold for a first-round victory. In conclusion, first, all Kenyans do not vote only for candidates from their own ethnic groups. Second, we do not know the ethnic identities of registered voters. Third, Raila Odinga is already in office and studies show that that position gives him an advantage in the election. Fourth, voter turnout in Kenya has never been 100%. And fifth, Ngunyi's mistakes show that Jubilee clearly cannot be assured of a first-round victory and a runoff is highly likely. For more information, please click on the following link. Thank you.